Hi, so today I'll be talking about my menu and the design of the menu, the whole audience, the target audience, the what the actual menu would be for the venue and the dishes themselves, and I'll be giving a breakdown of the costs and the expected gross income and the gross profit from each of the dishes. I'd also just like to apologize in advance. I've just recently recovered from a chest infection, so if my voice gets a bit hoarse or I start to cough, just please excuse me. I apologize for that. So the menu is itself is the whole concept is a fusion menu of fusion foods. The the menu is a fixed price. It could also possibly be a table d'hote menu, but for the particular venue, fixed price would be better. It's a it's designed for a possibly a food truck or a pop up or something at a food festival, as the market would be there, as it's something different, it's something new, is people are willing to try it. The the dishes themselves are innovative. They're different to what people are used to, and fusion cuisine itself has become in recent years quite popular, especially since the 1970s, as it's seen its rise due to Wolfgang Puck, who made dishes like the buffalo chicken spring rolls, which is taking the sort of Chinese um, spring roll and then introducing an American flavor into it, like an American style fusion. And other more recent ones are like the ramen burger, which is a fusion of the typical Japanese ramen with a with a typical big burger with the patty and everything. It's new. It's people are willing to try it because it's something they've never experienced and it's flavors that they are used to in a different format. So for this particular menu, the target audience will be those with a keen interest in food, those who like to go to food festivals, for example, like to try things outside of the culinary norm. Those uh, generally would tend to be the younger generation, so young professionals that have a lot of disposable income. The those who would call themselves foodies, for example, the people that are younger generally, so like the millennials, are more likely to spend money into what's known as the experience economy. So it's the thought that engaging in exciting activities holds more of a value to them rather than owning objects or having like a car, a house, like whereas older generations it was the other way around. The research from the Harris Academy and Eventbrite that showed that 78% of millennials would rather spend their money on a desirable experience than something desirable as well. So the fixed charges that may or may not occur with this is the renting space. So, for example, the venue itself will charge you a certain amount of money, will charge you a certain amount to rent the space at the festival. This may or may not include utilities. If it doesn't include utilities, then you'll also have to work out how much it would cost you for gas, electricity, water, whichever utilities you needed. This, depending on how much they charge, can add up to quite a lot. So it would be something you'd research into beforehand. The other element of this would be disposable utensils, because if you buy these in bulk, you get them cheaper. Whereas if you were to buy a set amount, like non-disposable, it wouldn't work out. They'd most likely get broken, or you'd lose them. You'd lose track of them in a venue such as this because it's quite busy. There's a lot of people. You won't necessarily have the time to keep track of what's going which utensils are going where, as people tend to move around constantly and walk all over the place, and they're never in the same spot for too long. The other considerations you'd have to take in is the employment. So, how much would you charge? How much would you pay the person that's working with you for this type of event? You'd most likely need at least one person on hand to help you. The food costs for this could vary depending on what time of year the event itself takes place. So your chosen ingredients might not be in season, therefore costing more rather than less, because it's not in season. The other sort of consideration to take into consideration is that the supplier might have had a bad harvest that year, so the prices would have risen because there's in order to compensate for the missing products for the bad harvest year. Um, so this could prove to be more expensive, which would therefore affect your overall profit. For the dishes themselves, so the starter is a teriyaki salmon taco. The teriyaki is a classic Japanese flavor used in many dishes across Japan, and as a result has become very popular all over the world. There's many chain restaurants and just restaurants that are based on Eastern Asian cuisine that have some type of teriyaki dish in there. The flavors are they work very well together, as the salmon, which adds it's a fatty fish. It provides that oiliness of and the rich sort of meaty fattiness. In the sauce, the actual teriyaki sauce is an orange and honey glaze type of teriyaki sauce. So the orange is a classic flavor pairing with salmon. There are many dishes where salmon and oranges are paired together. The orange adds a fresh, sweet, and slightly acidic element to the sauce, making it not as rich and heavy. The tortilla provides like a starchy element, a component to the taco, and the taco itself will soak up the flavors of the sauce and the natural oils that will come from cooking the salmon, enhancing the flavor of the taco itself as well, and giving the taco some more flavor. The pickled slaw that goes with it will cut through the sweet fattiness of the salmon and the honey in the teriyaki sauce, providing a fresh palate cleansing effect as well. It cuts through the stronger flavors of the other components and just provides that extra bit. The textures as well are quite varied. So you've got the crispy, crunchy tortilla. You've got the flaky oiliness of the salmon covered in a sticky, sweet teriyaki sauce. With toasted sesame in there, you've got the bite from the sesame seeds. Gives it a slight sort of crunchy, seedy sort of taste and texture. And then you've got the vegetables, which are going to be quite giving it a bit of a more firm bite to the dish. The second dish, the main dish, is a butter chicken calzone, which will be served with one of three different sauces, depending on the choice of the person who buys it. So the main dish is a very fragrant dish, as the smell from the freshly baked naan bread is combined with the smell of the curry. That has been given at least a day to let the flavors meld, because this allows the flavors to fully come out, similar to how we temper chocolate. Different ingredients release more or less flavor and aroma after being cooked. So for example, when you cook something with spices, generally you tend to roast the spices first beforehand, because this releases the aroma and the smells from the spices, giving it that smell and making the retronasal effect of enhancing the overall sorry, the orthonasal effect um, of getting the smell of this from the spices, and this then provides you with that salivating effect of when you smell something and you are very familiar to it. This enhances the overall taste and meal experience. So once the naan bread is open, the calzone is open, the aroma of the curry will burst open, providing a sort of scent bomb. The components of the dish are the curry base, which is a butter chicken. It's a very rich and creamy curry as it contains butter and cream. And the calzone made using naan bread instead of the typical pizza dough. They're both made in similar ways, but they're quite different in taste and the way that they're made, their ingredients. So it's taking these sort of three familiar dishes that everyone's tried in some capacity and serving them in a way that's distinctive and becoming its own new type of dish. By providing the sauces with this dish, you also introduce another element to the dish depending on your own taste. It therefore gives the consumer a choice, making it feel like they are customizing the flavors to suit them. It also provides something to cut through the rich curry within, because it's due to the cream and the butter. It's quite a thick, rich sauce. So the chili sauce would add a spicy kick to it, giving it that from the onions, the chili, and the tomato. The tangy freshness of the mint and yogurt sauce as well is another one that would cut through it, or the sweet acidity from the sweet onion sauce. It all uh, blends together and then gives it that sort of choice that you can customize it to how you want it to be. For the dessert can be made using components of the first two dishes, apart from the eggs and the passion fruit, but everything else can be made. The recipe can make multiple, as with the main dish. The standard recipe can make more than one, so the cost of it is actually you can make multiple from one batch. It's similar to the dessert. So the cinnamon in the dish provides a sweet heat to the dish and complements the tart citrusiness of the passion fruit. The whipped cream welds together with both, providing a more subtle creamy flavor with with a nice sweet crunch from the meringue, giving it that sweet sort of marshmallowy taste. The dessert itself is a classic English dessert that uses berries typically, as it's normally made during the summer. So the cost of the menu in order is the starter would be £4.30 to make, £6.56 for the main to make, and 72p for the dessert. The selling price and gross profit, including VAT that I've worked out, would be for 26% on the starter. I would have to sell it at £7. For 40% on the main, I'd have to sell it at £13. And for the dessert, because it's the cheapest, I could sell it at 83% for £5, making the overall gross profit average 49.6. So by sacrificing GP, the gross profit on the starter, and partly on the main, the star of this becomes the dessert, as this earns 83% gross profit, making the highest profit of all the dishes. At this price, if I was to do it as a table d'hote menu, I would have to still charge quite a lot for everything, and people might not be willing to spend that much, especially not at this type of venue. But it's something different and intriguing, and many people go to food festivals in order to experience new things. So it would work out in the end. It justifies sort of the whole charging a bit less for the starter, but the dessert is making 83%. So this is the menu concept that I've come up with and the design. I hope you've enjoyed my presentation.